Hey everyone. Um, Wife's traveling out of town this weekend, so I get to go on multiple nights in a row. So tonight, what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to revisit the Svelte carousel that I built last night and posted up. And try to add a few features to it. Now, I got some really good feedback posting it on a couple of different Reddit forums and some other places, and some really good feedback. First of all, I misspelled the text at the bottom down there and left an N out. I have fixed that. That's why the N is capital. I did spell component correctly. This I'm gonna be watching it to make sure I did. But also, uh, there was some really good feedback. Dark Salad and I86K. Those are the two handles. Posting actually some really good articles or things showing statistics on why you should not use a carousel, why it's not a very good user experience. So I'm still going to do it anyway. The reason why is this isn't serve. I'm not making an opinion on whether you should use carousels or not. I'm using it sort of as a tutorial to get familiar with Svelte. Because if you think about everything that we went through setting up a Svelte project. We passed props back and forth. We did each loops, or so we looped over data and rendered based off of data. We mutated the data and we used flip animation. So that's just an introduction to a few of the things. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to add an autoplay feature. I'm going to add a dropout or give the user the ability to take the buttons off. So if you have autoplay on, you may not want the user to have the ability to cycle through on the carousel, and you just want some rotating thing. And then I'm going to add in event handling, adding event listeners and forwarding those events to the parent component, right? So, I make no opinions about whether you should use a carousel or not. It's just a little bit better than a Hello World project where, or a to-do list, just something different. It's an opportunity for me to learn. So, I'm gonna move on forward. So let me kick back over to my screen. Alrighty, so I'm gonna pull up what we were working on last night. Let's see, dev/tubes, that's where we are. Let's see, carousel. All right, and let's open that here. All right. Okay, so yeah, updated. I posted posted it on GitHub just to take a look at it if you want to walk through everything. And this is just what we worked on last night. This is our carousel component. Everything is excellent. Let's get it running. And kick over to localhost 5000 is the port that's running on. All right, so this is our carousel. So now what we want to do is we want to just kick in an autoplay. So first, we got to think about what we actually want to do. We already have the rotate left function declared. Ultimately, we're just going to set an interval that calls that. But first, we want to give the opportunity for the user to decide whether they want to use it or not. So we're going to export another prop, that autoplay, and we're going to make it false by default. And we're also going to want to give them the ability to choose the autoplay speed. And this is going to be in milliseconds. So right now I'm going to do it every 5 seconds. Let's pull back up our app, and we're going to go ahead and pass those in and override them. So autoplay is equal to true, and autoplay speed is going to be equal to, we'll say 3,000. So every 3 seconds to be a little quick, but it'll let us see what's going on. All right, and let's use that. So when the script's going to run automatically, and after we declare all these things, we're going to want to check if autoplay is set to true, and if so, we're going to call a function that we're about to declare, which is start autoplay, and simple as that. Now, what is this function going to look like? It'll be const autoplay, start autoplay, and what we're going to do is we want to set an interval, and the way that we're going to set it is we're going to assign it to the variable interval, but so that we can access it outside of these functions, we need to declare it outside, right? And the start autoplay is going to be interval is equal to set interval, and what we want to call is rotate left, and we want to call it on an interval of whatever our autoplay speed is. Autoplay speed, and I did that wrong, speed. Okay, so we have now set our interval, and we want to be able to stop it as well. Autoplay is equal to, and we're going to just clear interval, and we're going to clear this variable, and that clears it out. So now let's call those. We're gonna apply these to the individual image elements. So let's add them in here. So we talked last time, I think we showed with the button, the on-click directive, right? So we're gonna do the same thing. We can do the same events that we can call in JavaScript, just a slightly different context. So on, we want, whenever the mouse is enters over the image, we're going to call this. So mouse over, we're going to stop autoplay. And then we're going to have on mouse out equal to start autoplay. And this is going to cause a little bit of a problem, because if it's set to 0, or if it's set to false, they don't want it. If we mouse over, it's still going to turn it on. So we need to add a check inside of our start. We need to add the same check if autoplay is true. All right, so now we should be okay. Let's see, every 3 seconds. Oh, there we go. Every 3 seconds we have autoplay. Now let's check to make sure that our stop is happening. Oh, it stops and it reinitiates it. Cool. So there you have it. We've added a simple autoplay feature that the default is false, and the ability for the user to add things in. So this isn't too much different than we did before. We're using simple on directives to add event listeners to see what's going on and to run events for us, or to respond to user events. Now let's add we talked about, we wanted to add in the ability to, okay, yeah, so what if we wanted to trigger some sort of something that's going on in the parent component, right? So we may have like a modal or something up here, and we want to be able to trigger turning it on. So the way that we can do that is here we can have we can tell it on, and just like we had before, we had on mouse over, on whatever. We can also have it on to listen for any event that's dispatched. And we're going to create a dispatcher in a second. So we're going to say image clicked. We're going to name. We're going to listen for the image clicked event, and the function we want to run when we do that is handle image clicked. I'm not the most creative person in the world. Image clicked. And we'll go ahead and define that right now. Const handle image clicked. And we are going to, that event is going to emit an event as well, where it's actually going to pass the event with the dispatch. And we'll talk about, right now, let's just say console.log image clicked. And we'll come back to that. So when this component hears from its child, the image clicked event has been dispatched, it's going to handle image clicked. Let's go back in. And the way that we're going to add that in is Svelte. We're going to create a dispatcher. It says create event dispatcher. And that is just in the Svelte package. Svelte. It's a tough day, man. It's been long. So with the wife being out of town, that also means I'm doing homeschooling with the kids too. So I'm a little fried right now. All right. So now we want to declare our image dispatcher. So we're going to say const dispatch. We're going to create that dispatcher is equal to create event dispatcher. Simple enough. Now, we're going to add to the images here on click, and we're going to pass it a function. I'm just going to declare it in line here. You can also, pull it out, but it's simple enough. Dispatch. And the event that I'm going to dispatch is image click. That's what we defined in our app.svelte, on our parent component. And then what we can also pass out is, we see in React, we call it, the common syntax is payload. It's they call it, what is it? The value or the detail. That's the terminology that Svelte uses. So the next portion is a detail. So we can pass out just a string. Or we can pass out we can pass any. I'm just going to pass out a string now because it's simple enough, and we'll show you how to access it. And we'll just say let's make it a template literal, and we're going to say hello from. Let's just making fun of doing hello world apps, and here I am doing it. Hello from. We're going to say image.id. So remember yesterday we set up, as we're looping through, we have the image, which has an object, which has an ID property. So we're going to say hello from the image ID in the child component. And there we go. So now we're going to dispatch image clicked. So now when we see that, I haven't changed my function here yet. It should just do image clicked. Let's see. Yep, we got image clicked. Now how do we access that payload that we're sending, or detail? We can do that by just, instead of saying image clicked, we can access it through, well, let's just see the entire event. Why not? So we have the entire event here, and you'll see it has in a detail attribute that pass in what I want. So if I want to print that, dot detail, and there you have it. So I have hello from image 3. It should rotate in a few seconds. Hello from image 2. Hello from image 1. So I mean, you can do whatever you want with that. The case that I thought of was displaying a modal. You could pass out the you could pass, instead of the ID, you could just pass out what image.path, and hey everybody, just going through checking my Twitch stream, QA in it a little bit, and realized that my stream cut off in the last like 5 minutes, so I just backed up a little bit, and I'm gonna finish this out. So what I was just showing is how we updated the actual detail we were dispatching from image, and we're pulling it out here looking at e.detail, and now when we click our image, we're actually getting the path to that. So you could use that to, you know, trigger a modal display and then give it the path to the image you want to show, just as an example. So that's what we can use. That's one example of how we can use event dispatching, and of course there's a whole host of other things. But I think the last thing that we're going to go over was conditionally rendering our buttons, right? So if you have autoplay, you may not want to have these controls, these clickers, which still work with autoplay, but maybe you don't want them on there. So let's give the user that option. So export let the display controls is equal to, of course, the default should be true, but let's go back and make it false so we can see it disappear. Put it there. Controls equal to, all right. Let's go back to here. All right, so we've got a Boolean value holding whether we want to display our controls, right? So just like here with our image, we introduced rendering logic or conditional logic for whether we render an element or not using these each keywords. We can do that here. If we don't want to have our controls, we can just get rid of both of these buttons and the slot. Doesn't matter. We don't need to have the slots available anyway. So the syntax for that is the octothorpe if, and then display controls, and you have to end that if statement, and the way that you do that is with just a /if, and there they go, they're gone. I'm not going to go into it and what some options would be, but you can also put in you know, this is the syntax for else, so you can have one way or the other. So I'm not going to go through an example here, but I mean, I'm sure you can imagine anything that you want to drop in there. There's really only two options for this particular one. So there's the syntax for it. So just to rehash a little bit about what we covered, we added in our autoplay feature, which just involved a little bit of vanilla JavaScript with setting intervals and clearing intervals. We explored how do we dispatch events so that we can communicate between child and parent components. In a future one, I'll do using stores, so we can create data stores and then create a context which we pass information around, just like in using use context and hooks or Redux, or we can create stores and any number of stores, so we can go pass information to adjacent components or ones that are separated further in the tree. And then lastly, we added in conditional, a conditional or user option for displaying the controls. Because if you have autoplay, you may not want to display the controls. So again, no opinion on whether you use carousels or not, but hopefully this has been just a fun little project to work on. If you have any ideas for other things we can add on, revisit this topic or this component and add in, just let me know, shoot me a message. And look forward to y'all joining and getting to continue to explore some other things. I'm going to be focusing on Svelte for a little while because, frankly, I'm really liking it. It's really easy and really quick to pick up, and man, is it fast. Um, I Another topic we know is routing. So you can go. Sapper is the framework that has routing built in already. It provides server side rendering and a whole lot of other cool stuff that's kind of built in. There's a template for it that's on the same as Svelte.dev, and there's a link to, I think it's sapper.dev, and you can pull that down. Or you can just build it up from scratch and choose the router that you want. There's a whole host of things available within Svelte, but just I ran Lighthouse on this project that I'm putting together, and I had over a 95 on everything. It's not a super complex site, but I've never had that with a first time go, and a lot of that comes with just nothing special I did, out of the box capabilities that it has, and how quickly it renders, and how quickly it just the way that it compiles everything down to vanilla JavaScript and small bundle sizes and quick reactivity. So it's a fun tool to explore, and I'll continue to play with it, and I hope y'all come back to join me. Thanks, everyone.